So, guys, are you ready to unmatrix yourself? Because that's what we're about to do is unmatrix ourselves. There's some things happening in this world that we are aware of. We are, anyways, but there's a lot of people out there that are not aware. And one of the ways, this force that we're dealing with, they have to tell us what they're doing. It's the karmic law. And it's the universal law. They have to tell us in one way, shape, form, or another. They have to, either through art, through monuments, television, movies, music, in some way or shape or form, they have to tell us. And they have been telling us through a lot of the movies, like Marvel movies, for instance. Those are very esoteric, and they have some very deep messages embedded within them. People think that it's just Superman flying around and doing this and doing that. But if you look in between the words and look in between the pictures, there's a lot more going on. And they're telling us their intention on exactly what they're about to do. So my next speaker, Pim the Great, I love this guy. I had him on WatchersTalk a few weeks ago, and we had just a wonderful conversation on unmatrixing yourself. But we really didn't get into the unmatrixing. We just kind of hinted towards it through music and sound and such. Really, that talk was in getting to know Pim and what he was going to bring to the table here today. And he sent me his presentation, and wow, what an amazing presentation he has. We're going to touch on a lot of important things here. So let me quickly read Pim's bio, and then I will bring him on, and then we will continue in our playground. So, born in the 80s and raised in the Netherlands, Europe, growing up in an atheistic environment, but with past life memories and a deep understanding of life, made Pim avoid religions but seek spirituality to understand his embedded knowing. During his teens, as most people do, he had let go of the spiritual path and was seeking material gains, riches, and fame. Entering the world of entertainment, surrounding himself with celebrities and executives that operate the show behind the scenes, soon enough he discovered the metaphorical man behind the curtains that was pulling the strings. Disgusted by his findings and how the material world is really operated, he stepped away from that life and obtained a regular 9-to-5 job, traveled the world, and studying the occult in his spare time, which led up to starting his own movement together with his brethren, Aziak, in 2019, Unmatrix. The aim of Unmatrix is to expose what's going on behind the scenes and help people upgrade their frequency for faster transcendence. And that's exactly what we're doing, is transcending through this playground that we've created for the past 9 days. Sand is everywhere, and we're having a great time awakening and raising our awareness. And Pim, thank you very much, brother, for being here and raising our awareness, because we're about to get a lesson in how to unmatrix ourselves and how to surgically look at the world around us and the messages that they're giving us and how they're controlling us through sound, through visuals, through movies, through audio. So thank you, brother, for your contribution to Humanity Unplugged is greatly appreciated, and a lesson that we all need to learn, because we're creating this new timeline. And what you're going to show us is in this timeline that we've just left behind yesterday. And the new one that we're creating here, we have to be careful and keep an eye out for what you're going to show us, just in case somebody tries to infiltrate our timeline, right? And try to pull this wool over our eyes and turn us back into acquiescent sheeps. And that's something that we don't want. So welcome, brother. You're looking lovely today. Happy equinox.
How are you doing, brother? It's good to be back here. I really loved our last session. And yeah, it's a really amazing event. I've checked out a few of the sessions before. I really have to, I think it take a few weeks actually to run back all the shows. But also the previous interview with Tom, that was amazing. I really have to see the whole thing. I was like partially in. It was really super dope. And yeah, I love the introduction you did. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So basically, like the idea is right to work on like the internal, unplug yourself and work on the internal. But what is the best way to do that is actually to look at the external, right? And just what you were saying, like the karmic law is that basically they have to show you, the elite, right, what they are doing. They have to expose themselves. And yeah, we're gonna go into that right now because I made a little presentation of some exoteric work. So basically, this is the exoteric execution of the Philosopher's Stone. So the
Nice.
Philosopher's Stone is an occult principle, right? Concept, and that's like the Holy Grail. Is more or less kind of the same thing, but we can go into that a little bit more later.
Beautiful, brother. I will. I'll give you the screen and just let me know. Do you want me to bring your presentation up right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
I'll do that, and I'll shut my cam off, but I'll be here in the background. Now, do you want to take questions as you're going, or do you want to take questions at the end?
Whatever you feel like. So basically, I think this will be around like 30 minutes presentation, so we can jump in it while we go through it, or we wait on the end. So whatever you think is best, and I think that's the best way to go for it.
We'll go energetically, brother, as the questions are coming in, and if they energize, we'll ask. If not, I'll star them and then hit you up afterwards.
For sure.
Coolies,
so, yeah.
brother. Thank you.
All right. So as you can see already, I put up here as a subtitle, The Search for Immortality. So that's a very important part of this. So what I've done for this little presentation is actually I gathered information mainly from Wikipedia, not because that is the best source, definitely not at all, but of course it's like the most common source, right? So we're going to work with the common knowledge because we can also really go into the occult part of things, especially about like, okay, what is alchemy, what is the Philosopher's Stone, etc. on the esoteric part, right? But now we first go and focus on the exoteric part because that will expose basically the agenda of the elite and all the situations that we've been into since 2019. Also, one good thing to say right now, or actually two things. First of all, I have dyslexia, so I'm not the best writer and not the best reader. So keep that in mind. So if I make some mistakes, bear with me, please. The other thing is,
I'm the same way, brother.
Plus, you're Aries too, so we're really well connected, and this is our shine, right?
You should see some of my comments sometimes.
No worries. We take it light, hippie style. So, and the other thing is, let me think. I forgot about that one, but let's just start with this one because I'm setting here the foundation basically for the presentation, right? So it's good to have this in mind. Another thing I wanted to say is what I'm going to basically do is show you the dots, and then you have to be, as a viewer, right, more or less try to connect it. Because me personally, like my background from a professional level, I'm like a creative director, but / data scientist. And what does a data scientist does is basically recognize pattern recognition. So this is something that is very important, of course, when you do dot connecting. So that comes very good hand in hand together. So first of all, what is alchemy? So alchemy is the inner transformation through esoteric wisdom. And what is esoteric wisdom? That is occult knowledge processed. Occult knowledge can only be expressed through the use of symbolism. Symbolism is not meant to be taken literally. That's a very important one because most people, just like in religions as well, they do exactly that. They take it all too literal, and therefore they are misunderstanding what it's really about. Then we have, what does esoteric mean? That's from within. Occult, that's hidden. So now the exoteric world agenda by the Luciferian elite is misused and abused esoteric wisdom from the occult. So there's a very big difference between what the elite is doing, so those who basically pull the strings in this world, right, the physical world, and what the occult, so the hidden ones, those behind the veil, are working on, because they are more focused on the esoteric, while the elite is focused on the exoteric, the outside world. All right. So what is the Philosopher's Stone? This comes from Wikipedia. The Philosopher's Stone is a mythic alchemical substance capable of turning base metals such as mercury into gold or silver. It is also called the elixir of life, useful for the rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. For many centuries, it was the most sought goal in alchemy. The Philosopher's Stone was the central symbol of the mystical terminology of alchemy, symbolizing perfection at its finest, enlightenment, and heavenly bliss. Efforts to discover this Philosopher's Stone were known as the magnum opus, the great work. This is also a very important term. So what does the Philosopher's Stone look like? Descriptions of the Philosopher's Stones are numerous and various. According to the alchemical text, the stone of the philosophers came in two variations prepared by an almost identical method. So we have the white. I no longer see my slides right now. I don't know if you can pull it back up, or do I have to be the one?
No, all good here, brother. I think what's happened here. Let me put it over here like that. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on here? Okay, who's messing with it? Don't do that.
I'm not touching it.
There we go. Right there.
No problem. So we have the white stone, right? So that's for the purpose of making silver. And then we have the red stone, which is the purpose of making gold. So the white stone is being the less matured version of the red stone. So the red stone is basically the most important stone, and that is really what is the Philosopher's Stone. Some ancient and medieval alchemical texts leave clues in the physical appearance of the stone of the philosophers, specifically the red stone. And also, as you see, can also images here on the side from both Harry Potter and some, I'm not really sure what's the title of that, but some manga cartoon. It's obviously like a red stone, right? So the Philosopher's Stone is a red stone. A red alchemical substance for rejuvenation and achieving immortality. Doesn't this sound very similar to the red pill from the Matrix trilogy? It should, because the red pill is a metaphor for the Philosopher's Stone. So this is something that I think a lot of people are not aware about, especially the ones that always say red pill this, red pill that. You know, they always promote it more or less in the so-called truthers community, but they have really no clue what it's about. So let's go more into that. Just like the red rose, which is also stands symbol for the perfected man. So yeah, more or less the Philosopher's Stone is an alias for becoming the perfected man. And red signifies fire and blood and refers to the Luciferianism and socialism. So then what we discussed before as well, the great work, very important term. So that is basically the path, right, to the Philosopher's Stone. So what is the great work? According to Wikipedia, accomplishing the great work symbolized as the creation of the Philosopher's Stone represents the culmination of the spiritual path and the attainment of enlightenment, or the rescue of the human soul from the unconscious forces which bind it. The great work signifies the spiritual path towards self-transcendence in its entirety. This is the process of bringing unconscious complexes into the conscious awareness in order to integrate them back into oneself. So in short, the great work means esoterically to connect to the source, right? And let go of your ego. However, when you look at the exoteric meaning of it, it can be translated to connecting to like AI and the internet and socialism. And also I put some images there. I think it's very interesting. You see the connection, for example, also the movie Transcendence, right? That was not about spiritual transcendence at all. It was more about AI and connecting to the AI and the Internet of Things. The fourth industrial revolution is the Luciferian exoteric take on the great work. So now we're going to see how does this get executed by the elite. So the fourth industrial revolution is a way of describing the blurring of boundaries between the physical, digital, and biological worlds. It's a fusion of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and other technologies. This is a quote from Salesforce. But this is more or less directly coming from Web, from Klaus Schwab, etc. The reason why big tech and big pharma wants to merge humanity with technology is to try to expand our consciousness with it and prolong our physical life through biohacking. You can refer to this agenda as the great work and the successes as the accelerator of life, as they too seek enlightenment and immortality. Just like the occult. Right? That's what the occult is trying to more or less obtain, always seeking the light and transcendence of light, like of themselves, right? But the elite, those who do the exoteric work, they try to enforce that basically through technology, which is a whole different path, of course. So here we have it, the exoteric agenda. The agenda for the world is run by the elite, and the elite are into occult knowledge. The occult seeks the philosopher's stone to transform themselves, but the elite seeks to change the world. However, citizens of the world don't like change, especially sheep. They do not like change. So in order to execute their version of the great work on humanity as a whole, the elite has to introduce external substances to give humanity the upgrades that they seek. So how to introduce external substances to people against their will? Well, you create a problem in which these external substances become their solution, salvation. So what are the changes that the elite wants to see? Well, it's really literally written in stone on the Georgia Guidestones. But this agenda has been rebranded and is now known as the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. And also here on the right, you see a picture, one of the Georgia Guidestones with all the goals, more or less. And then we have the 17 goals by the United Nations for the SDG. And of course, almost all celebrities are promoting this right now. So a new world, or better yet, a new world order. According to the goals of the Georgia Guidestones, the world population has to be reduced with about 80%, meaning that the New World, or as the New Age movement likes to call it, the New Epoch, aka the New Galilee, will be only available for a select few. This select few is supposed to be and transform humanity and is referred to as the new root race. This is something that Blavatsky, for example, always is talking about, Alice Bailey, all these New Age writers, more or less. The new root race is supposed to be a manifestation of the philosopher's stone, and thus humans that have obtained godhood in the flesh. So how does the elite try to separate the wheat from the chaff? Well, they use the Great Reset to do that. So what is the Great Reset? Now here are some words and terms. I'm not gonna all say out loud because I don't want your channel to get a strike. But bear with me and you for sure get what I'm referring to. So according to a May 15, 2020 web article, the sea offers an opportunity to reset and reshape the world in a way that is more aligned with the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. 2030, that's where the whole term Agenda 2030 comes from, because that's not a conspiracy. That's literally a goal set by the United Nations, which they called Agenda 2030. And the Sustainable Development Goals is exactly that execution of that agenda. So as climate change, inequality, and poverty gained even greater urgency during the pandemic, this includes resetting labor markets as more people work remotely, speeding up the process of the future work, The reset will advance work already began to prepare for the transition for the fourth industrial revolution by upskilling and reskilling workers. So to establish the fourth industrial revolution, the elite needs to reset our current society, and the pandemic was the perfect excuse to do this, start this process, and most people were really happy to give away their freedom, give away their, the previous lifestyles, just to be safe from this disease, right? The V. Then we have, okay, the red pill, because that's, yeah, the Philosopher's Stone is red. And like I mentioned before, you can actually compare that to the red pill of the Matrix. So to enforce an upgrade to physical bodies and the consciousness of humanity as a whole, they have to introduce external substances that activates that what humans cannot or do not want to activate themselves. The perfect solution for this would be to install high technology that merges with our physical bodies, that can access both the spirit and the mind of the host, right? So, as mentioned before, the C created a great opportunity to reset and reshape the world. And the fourth industrial revolution is not only about changing the world, but more about changing yourself by blurring the lines between biology and technology. So, they are really pushing for transhumanism. So, what's the given solution against the C? Nanotechnology. Just injected right in your body, and that's exactly what I call the red pill. This nanotechnology that they're trying to enforce on all of us. Okay, so let's go deeper into the Matrix. The Matrix is actually the Luciferian philosophy. In the Matrix, Thomas Anderson wanted to know what the Matrix is, and so he started his search as a hacker under the pseudonym Neo. Neo's room was number 101. He opened the door and spotted a white rabbit, and so his journey began. This was a reference to actually entering the mystery schools and seek the light. 101, yeah, that's more or less the same thing as the pillars, Boaz and Jackin, with the portal in the center. All right, so Neo, metaphorically, entered the mystery school by stepping through a door of light. This is exactly that 101. He was told to follow the white rabbit, which is another reference to entering the mystery schools and practice the great work. Here you have some occult symbols, not symbols, images. And as you can see in the corner, there's actually rabbits going down the rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole is once again another occult reference, just like also in Alice in Wonderland, which means and stands symbol for entering the mystery school. The mystery schools, of course, being the cults, the occults, for the Luciferian agenda. So Neo actually portrayed Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff is like the Jesus of the mystery schools, especially Freemasonry. So in the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, they are actually referred to as the Blue Lodge. And only a Master Mason may proceed to the Red Lodge. So to become a Master Mason, one has to be invited for a ritual, which the adept has to be participating, acting as Hiram Abiff, and experience his death, whereafter he will be resurrected. Neo too got invited to partake in a ritual, and he had to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. So the red lodge and the blue lodge. Will you continue, go for the red lodge, or you will stay like, the majority of most Freemasons in their lower 3 degrees, the blue lodge. So the red pill was to merge his body and mind with technology and new abilities and broaden his consciousness, while the blue pill will basically keep him stuck in the lower lodge, so within the matrix, so he will not unplug from the matrix. And of course, Neo took the red pill. So Neo took the red pill, and so after he was born again, just like how Hiram Abiff got born again, reborn as Lazarus, according to the Luciferian philosophy. So if you want to know more about the Luciferian philosophy in general and how Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism, how they all look at the whole story of life, more or less. Genesis, everything what's written in the Bible. Then you really have to read Freemasonry and Catholicism by Max Heindel. So that was a high up Rosicrucian Freemason, and he wrote books not for the profane, it's like how to what to call it, but actually for the high initiates themselves. So for sure, there's a lot of Freemasons out there and other mystery school members that don't even know about this work. But if you really want to know what like the ones behind the veil are into, you have to read this book. So now Neo got unplugged after taking the red pill and being reborn, and he started getting chased by AI programs. That's what Mr. Smith was. And they tried to reset him, pull him back in the matrix in his old position, right? Then eventually, Mr. Smith kills Neo. However, Neo resurrected, just like Hiram Abiff, to finish the great work and came back as the One. The One, Neo now has a computer vision and is able to read and reprogram the Matrix. So he's more or less post-human now, and it's transhumanism. He got like software installed through the red pill, right? And now he has access to reading the Matrix and moving it up will, and therefore he became so strong and more or less immortal. So once again, this was copied from the Luciferian story of Hiram Abiff, who eventually became himself Christian Rosencreutz. So after he first got reborn as Lazarus and he had his hammer taken, he became back as Christian Rosencreutz with the red rose. Once again, the red rose, the red pill, and the red stone all are symbol for the same thing, the Philosopher's Stone. So, once again, they try to reach godhood, immortality, become the perfected man through technology. So just like how Neo took the red pill and had to start physically fight these AI programs, the Mr. Smiths, also the current people that took the nanotechnology have to fight these AI programs within themselves. Because this AI is living now more or less in small doses within their physical bodies. If they fail, they will eventually die. But if their bodies merges correctly with the red pill, they might actually become resurrected and maybe even become eternal or immortal like Neo in the near future. Neo, by the way, means new, and he's really the poster boy for the New Age movement and the New World Order, which most people really don't understand because the New World Order is technocratic communist society with a socialist front cover. And that's why socialism is pushed everywhere. The whole all-inclusiveness, leave no one behind, equality, all that fairy tale stuff. But actually, that's just a front because they just want to push down a technocratic communist society down our throats. And of course, there's been a lot of predictive programming before this even started to take place in 2019. So how did it start? This pandemic, right? Supposedly a man-made disease got leaked from a biolab in China and then started rapidly spreading and infecting a large amount of the world's population. This is a very similar scenario as in Resident Evil and many other disease and zombie movies and games, storylines, which have been projected onto humanity for years by Hollywood to prepare the world for these staged sequences of events. However, in these movies and the games, the idea behind the man-made bioweapon is always to reshape humanity and give them an upgrade through technology to seek eventually some form of immortality, godhood, aka the Philosopher's Stone. So, actually, they use parasites, inject parasites. And Resident Evil knows many variants and strains of this disease, the C. In Resident Evil 4 is revealed how they have used ancient alien-like parasites to manufacture a new strain, and in Resident Evil 5 shows a red flower that is used to further perfect the Philosopher's Stone. So once again, the color red comes back in here, and now in this case it's even a flower. So that of course is a symbolic reference to the red rose from the Rosicrucianism, and that's another, symbol for the Philosopher's Stone. The eventual goal of all these strains is to separate the wheat from the chaff and obtain godhood in the flesh for those who survive the shift. It's all very similar to how these nanotechnology that the people took have different batches with different ingredients by different producers. All these different batches basically serve a different purpose. It's really survival of the fittest, and they're trying to see, okay, which groups in what locations and what ages can survive what. And of course, we just started with this, last year, more or less. And more or less, I'm pretty sure that they will come with even more different batches and executions of, this technology, just to see how far they can push it. And interestingly enough, there are batches that were discovered that includes Hydra vulgaris, or better yet, Linus. So what is that? We will talk about that next up. But here I want to show you first something from the Resident Evil 5 game, some storylines. So here on the left side, it's like two screens. You see that the bad guy, Wesker, has a conversation with one of the founders of the umbrella company, one of the engineers of the first V. So he was saying, so you were saying that I was manufactured. And then this founder said, I was to become a god, creating a new world with advanced race of human beings. So see, once again, they really are focusing on this new root race, new age idea. And Wesker says, the right of to be a god, that right is with me. Then on the next slide, you see that he has a conversation now with the hero of the story, Chris, and he's more talking about this project within this game called Ouroboros, and that's like we're going to talk a little bit more about it in the next two slides, but I will finish first the story. So with Ouroboros, I have that right. Has it never occurred to you that this planet is overpopulated? Only a handful of humans truly matter. Everyone else is just much chaff. Only those fit for survival will be allowed to carry their genes in the new age. So really, you see, this is all we're again focused on. Okay, we have to reduce the population with 80%, and we have to make sure that only the select few will survive this and carry on their genes to the new age. This is the Luciferian philosophy, where they believe that evolution is the key point to creating a better new world. So now I have to separate the chaff from the wheat. And then Chris says, so let me guess, you're going to be the one to rule this new age, right? And then Wesker again, and with Ouroboros, I can finally accomplish this. Only those cannot properly see myself with this DNA, with the right DNA, will be the chosen ones. All right, next slide. So this Ouroboros thing is actually black goo, and black goo in the exoteric world, right? You also have an esoteric meaning of that, but in the exoteric part of it is basically graphene oxide plus hydra together. So this hydra Linus, what is found in some batches, is actually an artificial version of the organic hydra vulgaris, which basically operates more or less like a parasite inside the body, where it starts to leach and replicate itself throughout the body. The most interesting part of Hydra is that it's said to be immortal. So if you put this in a blender, if you put Hydra in a blender and you want to smash it up, it will not die. It will actually start to multiply. So why the hell are they putting this in some batches and try to inject it into people? And on top of that, there's also graphene oxide in a lot of these batches. And by some doctors, it's said that this graphene oxide is actually there to feed and hatch the Hydra eggs, so it can grow quicker and replicate more inside the bodies of the host. What's also interesting to know is that this graphene oxide can actually be remotely controlled through frequencies, like, for example, audio, etc. There's a lot of videos of that on YouTube. You can look it up, graphene oxide, and then you can see how it's moving throughout. So in Resident Evil 5, there's also this project for the Philosopher's Stone called Ouroboros, what I was referring to before. And it shows the infected with like some black goo inside their bodies, transmuting to the outside and basically taking over, hosting the body, just like as also in the Marvel. Just what Omar was saying, that there's a lot of, hidden gems in the movies from Marvel, like the Venom, because exactly that's what's happening in there. And here on the right side, I have some more images from the Resident Evil game. So here's another lady that's working for the bad guys, Wesker, that's talking about this Ouroboros project and also showing what's happening. We cannot show the full video in here because maybe we get some copyright. So I will just talk about what's basically happening. So in the game, you see that there's this one guy that's in the center with the cat eyes, right? He's getting injected. He gets injection with the Ouroboros project, and then he starts to transmute. His body starts to transform. So what does the lady say? He spent all this time to look for Ouroboros. It's a little hard for me to see here, so bear with me. And soon enough, everybody will basically find out what it's all about. And then she says, it's for evolution. It's a philosopher's stone, and the philosopher's stone that will choose you. Through DNA, who shall proceed to the next stage. Only the chosen ones who are fit for the coming new world. So once again, this is showing how it's all about, survival of the fittest for just the 20% of humanity for the new world, the new age. Well, this is the part for my presentation. I think the rest is more interesting if we're gonna, talk about this concept. I could have done a lot more slides, of course, of this and go more in depth, but I think it's more interesting if we come from here and then see where we will take it with the audience and with you, Omar. So if you can come back in the show, let's bring it on.
Fantastic presentation, bro. That was great.
Thank you.
Yourself. Wow, where to begin?
Exactly.
Where to begin on this one?
I threw a lot of dots on you guys, so I understand it. So where do you like to begin, and we can go take it there.
I'm thinking about the Georgia Guidestones,
right?
And I'm thinking about Star Trek, and I am thinking on multiple levels here. Number one, the Agenda 2030 and the Agenda 2021. All of that you can find in your city's website. They're very clear about it. It's right there. You go to your city website, you look up, and then you'll find Agenda 2021, Agenda 2030, and so on and so on. So the intention is created. And then the old Georgia Guidestones, that's an interesting chunk of stone there, Pim, because it's exactly 666 kilometers from Washington, D.C. And it's got many things written on it that make it sound like that they're blaming us. You know,
Yep.
for instance, live with nature in harmony, right?
Mm,
Live with nature in harmony, Pim. You and I live with nature in harmony. I'm sure people that are watching, like Andres and Aziek and Open Loops Greg and Sugar Bee and on and on and on, you know, I'm sure they live in harmony with
mm,
nature. But when we look
right.
at these parasites that created this Georgia Guidestones, and when we look at all these corporations around the world, they're not living in harmony with the nature. They're strip mining, they're clear cutting, strip logging, they're strip fishing.
Mhm.
You know, they're chemying our skies. They're blowing up nuclear weapons on a weekly basis, literally on a weekly basis. They're sucking oil out of the ground like there was no tomorrow. And then they have the tenacity and the nads, the bollocks to step up to us and look at us right in our faces and say, it's your fault. We're going to
Yes.
take you
That's what
and
I love to do.
we're going to take you and we're going to put you in a city and we're going to put a great big fence around it and you're going to drive autonomous cars so that you can never
Mhm.
leave that city. We can shut it off whenever we want.
You own nothing and be happy.
That's right. And then they say,
That's what you
yeah. And then they say, it's you because you're the consumer. We do this because you want this, right?
Mhm.
But we never asked for any of this, did we?
Oh,
We didn't ask for plastic bottles. We didn't ask them to go and cut down the forest. We didn't
absolutely.
ask them to pollute our water and our atmosphere and our land. We didn't ask for GMO seeds. We didn't ask for wars, but yet they continue to give us that. And they say it's our fault.
Yep.
We do this because you want it. You're the consumer. I'm the good guy here because I'm the guy that's providing you all of this. So don't blame me for strip mining. Don't blame me for blowing up 2,054 nuclear weapons in the last 72 years, which equals out to one a week, literally, if you do the math work on it.
Yep.
And that's just one aspect of the Georgia Guidestones. Now, there's a whole list of them. Now, when you actually go through the list and you look at it with constructive thinking, original thought, and you go, something's not right here, right? And how do we combat that? First of all, Pim, is to bring awareness to the fact that that's what they're doing, right? And second,
Yep.
how do we fight these guys? Because if you look at the sense of this, right? They tell us, I find this a little mental illness involved in here. They tell us you can't use plastic straws, right? Then you go to
Right.
the grocery store and everything is wrapped in plastic.
Well, think about all these substance, right? So many countries are now mandating a negative swap for you to even enter the country, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how much plastic, because those swap test kits are already made from plastic. Then they're all in separate plastic
Mhm.
packages, right? And it's it totally doesn't add up at all if you really start doing the math and look at everything in detail and start calculating. Because that's the whole thing, you know. The elite are all philosophers. They actually don't do the math. They don't do it. Like they have a philosophy. The same thing, for example, with electric cars, right? If you're
Mhm.
gonna really start digging into, okay, what does it take to make the battery of an electric car? How much damage do you have to create to nature to even make, a battery for one of these cars? But then
Hmm.
you start pushing it, saying, yeah, green energy. Like also another thing, I literally worked for an energy, one of the biggest energy companies here in Netherlands, here actually in Europe. So I know, how much percentage of green energy is actually green, and that is nihil. That's very little. They have just rules from the government that they say, okay, if you go for like 15% green energy, you can label it green. So the rest can be gray. So the rest can be nuclear energy. So you can produce 85% nuclear energy, then 50% solar and wind energy, and just call it green energy and sell it to the people. And that's
Hmm.
legal. And people buy it thinking that it's all 100% green. No.
That's generated under the mask of global warming to
Yep.
usher in 2030 and 2021 and sanctuary cities and hostage cities and prison cities, smart cities, so that they can lock us up in there and really keep us in there. Now, Pema, when I read your presentation and then
Mm-hmm.
listening to your presentation, it sounded to me that we need to change our vocabulary when it comes around a red pill, right? Because from
Yep.
what I'm
No, totally. Like,
understanding,
I mean,
yeah, from what I'm catching here, the red pill that they're trying to give us is not the red pill we want. In fact, we want the purple pill.
correct.
Hey, what
Exactly.
do you
You
think
want the
of that?
balance. You want the purple. That's exactly it. You want to combine both of that together. And of course, if you also look at the tree of life, if you have the boas and the jaggin, you have the red pillar and the blue pillar. And you want to be in the middle of that, right? You want to be to the top, to the
Hmm.
crown, and also the crown chakra. What color is the crown chakra? That indicates purple. So
Hmm.
indeed, you want to go for purple.
Yeah, exactly is what we want. This nefarious agenda that's been happening for a long, long time, and it seems to me that it really got kicked into plan with Albert Pike. He sent a letter to this fellow named Giuseppe something or other. I can't recall his
Yeah.
name off the top of my head, but he himself was a Mason and part of the Illuminati. And in that letter, they discussed the three world wars, right? They talked
Mhm,
about the
mhm.
First World War. I remember this letter was written in 1871, and the First World War didn't happen until 1914. That's a huge span. That's like my
Right.
lifetime, right? And then they talked about World War II,
Yeah.
and then they talked about World War III, right? So it seems to me is like that's when this plan of theirs, really kicked into gear. Right? Prior to that, it really wasn't all that organized. I would say, it was organized according to
Mhm.
their technology back in the day, but like around 1871 is like really when we got into the industrial revolution. And then when we got into that industrial revolution, this plan came forward, and they've been implementing this plan ever since, step by step by step, problem reaction solution, all the way up until today. We just went through a problem reaction solution, and it's had a very negative effect on humanity. And it seems that they're giving the red pill to humanity instead of the pill that we want to give them, the purple one.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the whole thing, right? Like what most people don't understand is like this agenda is ancient, age old, right? It's not from just now. Like yeah, now the stars are aligning and we really are getting into that new age, right? The age of
Mm.
Aquarius, which is new age. But what most people do not understand is that these mystery schools, you know, how I always say is like the higher the degree, the more how you say that hijacked the person becomes.
Hmm.
What I mean with that is like you have like whisperers. That's how I like to call them. You know, lower frequency entities, that more or less whisper ideas in your mind, in your head.
Hmm.
And most people have also no clue what they're actually listening to, which voice is theirs and which voice is not. Because the whole thing is like, angelic spirits, angels are of a very high frequency and they only more or less come here inside the matrix when that's needed for like divine intervention, which is
Hmm.
very rare. It's not you can just do that all day, every day. So when people tell me like, yeah, I have this guardian angel who talks to me every day, bullshit. That is just some more lower frequency spirit, because they can actually connect to this room, because this is actually quite low frequency range that we
Hmm.
are operating in, right? So these angels, they are like you have to be really very unique if that's really the case, and most times it's really not the case. And yeah,
Or
once
very, or or very powerful. As you were saying that, the image came to my mind of like
again,
this divine light angel coming into this matrix, and it's kind of like when Neo was standing in that courtyard and he had to fight like a million Agent Smiths, right? When he grabbed the pipe and he
right,
started beating them with the pipe, and then finally he thought it was too much, and and he
yeah.
was gone, and he flew away. I wonder if some of these light angels, these very high frequency vibrating angels that come into this matrix, if that is what they're encountering, but instead of Agent Smith, they're encountering this parasitic archonic being that that attacks them to make sure that they don't carry out any of the light work that they're here to do.
Well, the whole thing is, of course, right, that like the lower frequency entities try to manipulate everything. They want to
Mhm.
control everything and keep, interfering, trying to change things their way, and always try to win basically this war of dark versus light, right?
Yeah, like
Well,
that god Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes
yeah,
Trismegistus,
business,
something like
yeah,
that. He's the trickster god, where
mm-hmm,
he gives you the truth and he'll do things for you a couple of times to gain your confidence. And then
right.
once he has your confidence and then you ask him to do something, he'll screw you over royally and then get that really dense energy, emotional energy
Genie in
out
a
of you.
bottle is a gin, yeah.
Yeah.
Two wishes, and then you're screwed. And
I
you have to be
gotta
specific, because otherwise you're screwed as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't ask for anything because
Yeah,
you don't know who you're
but yeah,
asking.
really, like, that's how it is, right? Like the whole thing is like, especially these elitists, they always stack, debt. They keep on asking more or less to spirits and everything around them to get their manifestation, right? Because that's all they want.
Mhm.
Like me
Yeah.
personally, like most spiritual people are always seeking also manifestation,
Mhm.
like the secret, and they follow all of that, and what they don't understand is that when you do that, you create debt. I rather
Mhm.
create credit. So I always work on karmic credit. I try to stack my karmic credit, right? So I
Mhm.
do a lot of things, helping people out for free, stuff like that. And not once again like what we discussed in the previous episode, about charity. I don't do charity, right? But yeah, I'm into stacking karmic credit,
Yeah, I don't
and not into the debt. And most people do the debt, and then when it's too late, they will find out what's the price of all those things that they manifested.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't do charity either because as our divine brother Michael Feely has made us aware that charity is a form of prostitution because back in the day in the Roman temples, you would have like all of these prostitutes, and when you went and hired them for their services, it was called giving charity, getting charity.
Mhm.
Right. So knowing that, I no longer do charity. I like that karmic credit. I really, really like that one. So, Pam, I've got a question here from you. It's been
Bring it
10
on.
days, brother. So, I
What's
got
my
a
question?
from Grandmother Suzanne. Grandmother Suzanne is amazing. We had her on a few days ago, and we did a wonderful panel. And I came to the understanding of a feather. So I've tried to employ that, and I'm going to continue to try to do that. But Grandmother Suzanne asks, in your view, how can this be changed or countered?
Right. Well, the first thing is, of course, like the whole reason why the elite has power is because people are giving it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're giving their energy, their money, their focus, and basically do what's told. So
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is how to fight it is don't listen to the elite. Don't listen to celebrities. Don't listen to politicians because they all lie and they all do serve the same agenda. So do just focus on you and your own loved ones, your family, and do your thing. Follow your path. Follow the point in your heart. Find out what that is and focus on that. And yeah, don't listen to any of this fear mongering, narratives. Just shut off your TV. Don't listen to the radio. That's just the best way, more or less, to start. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing also, like a few days ago, I reshared an old post from the Matrix, the On Matrix challenge. So more or less there, the first step of, yeah, matrixing yourself is actually to shut off all external influences.
Mm-hmm.
Create, focus only on the internal. That's the best
Hence,
way to start.
hence, humanity unplugged, explore the internal.
Exactly.
It's a lot of people, a lot of speakers through this entire event have focused on that message of exploring the internal, to go internal, to listen to the self instead of listening to the external, because there's just a lot of white noise in the external. And if you pay attention to that and give energy to that, then that'll just manifest itself into your life. And that's something that clearly nobody wants. Let's have another question. Let's go with Andres. Andres asks a question. He says, question, how is the Bros connected to the Philosopher's Stone?
Right. What is a good one? Well, I mean, it's only more or less in the Resident Evil games that I saw that direct connection. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, Ouroboros is the snake that eats its own tail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that
Would
more
that
or
be
less
like the
refers to.
infinity sign? We see the infinity sign of the snake eating its tail.
Yeah, correct. And what that, of course, is referring to is like two things. First of all, that history repeats, right? It's a continuing cycle, basically, and immortality. And if you connect that to the Philosopher's Stone, the connection in that is that the Philosopher's Stone is trying to become God in the flesh, right? And the whole
Oh.
purpose of that is to be immortal. So the idea is from the Freemason Luciferian philosophy is to become Hermes Trismegisto in the sense that you can reincarnate any moment in any type of body that you want. That's the whole idea.
I
So
see.
that really connects to that Ouroboros concept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that totally makes sense to me. My hair on my body are standing up when you said that, because I've tried to tackle this question in my
Hmm.
book Earth Frequency, and I've been struggling with, like, how do I go about doing this? And you just hit it right on the pin. I've always wondered, like, how is it that these elite families um, create these agendas from hundreds of years ago, and they want to carry this agenda forward for hundreds of years? And I've always wondered if they had the ability to incarnate right into the next and into the next, to carry that agenda forward and come into the incarnation with like a genetic memory or like a previous life memory, to
Hmm.
where they're aware, or there's like triggers that will remind them of their agenda and their previous plans into the world. And you just hit that like right on the head. That's why my hair on me stood right up. I was like, there's the answer. So I'll have to credit you on that in my book.
For sure. And I always want to give you one more on that point, because you, of course, you know that the whole elite is also like into the moon children thing, right? This
Mm-hmm.
whole Alice Crowley concept of catching basically the butterfly, right? That is another symbolic metaphor, how they refer to it. So that is a ritual in which they more or less put a pregnant woman like in the desert or a lonely place, and
Mm-hmm.
try to capture a certain soul to reincarnate into the baby, in the fetus within the pregnant lady. So
Mm-hmm.
that comes together like with this whole concept, like that the occult believes that they can reincarnate in a select body, and
Mm-hmm.
then they have these families that actually does rituals to try to manifest that.
Holy fuck, brother! I wonder if I wonder if walk-ins are somehow connected to this. We had a walk-in panel, and some friends of mine are walk-ins, and we did a walk-in episode just a couple days ago. And I wonder if that's something that's being played out, right? Instead of incarnations, they're just simply walking into the meat suit and then overtaking it and then braiding themselves upon the previous occupant, and then just really overpowering that essence or that spirit within that meat suit.
Well, that's exactly also what I believe, because once again, this is a belief,
Mm,
right? You cannot prove this, but like we have souls, like us light beings, right? We are souls that are incarnated in a human body, right?
mm-hmm,
But then you have these spiritual or spirits, negative spirits from all kind of other sources. Let's put it like that,
mm-hmm,
right? And they hijack. So that's the whole concept. For example, also the movie Fallen, right, with
mm-hmm.
Denzel Washington, where
I was watching that just a couple days ago.
synchronicity, right? So where an evil spirit can go from body to body, body
Mhm.
snatching, right?
I saw a something similar on Star Trek Voyager, where
Mm-hmm.
in one of the episodes where an alien had come on, and he would touch somebody and he would transfer from their body into their body, and then he was doing that consistently and changing. And of course, Hollywood ending at the end, they were able to reunite everyone to their right body and to their right to their right essence. And then there in that episode, they're talking about the same thing, like the intention that they were trying to tell us is that this walk-in is very possible, and this is how is another form of incarnation.
Right.
And like we were saying again, these people, they have to let their intentions be known. And when you look at Star Trek is very esoteric and very Luciferian as well, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot of Luciferian symbolism embedded within Star Trek. See, I got one right up there. I love Star Trek, but I
Yes.
understand to what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's do
Yeah, there's also
let's
one, and one more time, a small little one on it. So because we talked about the black goo, right?
mhm,
So black goo is actually like from an esoteric point of view, is like this dark matter energy hijacking people,
mhm,
right? Like, and then in the exoteric version of that, it's the nanotechnology that is as transhumanism put into these people. But get
mm,
this, like, through AI, like negative entities can actually control AI. So while you put in nanotechnology inside your body, on the spiritual level of that, that means that you're like wide open to be hijacked by all kinds of walkers.
mhm. That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that AI could be like a form of consciousness in its own right, and that it's manifested itself onto this planet as a form of artificial intelligence on a trickery basis? Like trying to trick us to make us think that it's artificial, but in reality, it's not artificial. In fact, that it's a form of consciousness that's inhabited this vehicle.
Well, I get what you're saying, but of course, like artificial intelligence is data based, right? So it tries to create it's actually archetypical consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes like the concepts and ideas from all archetypes of humanity as a collective,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes from that.
I
The
just
problem with
wonder.
that is though that the collective is not of a high frequency.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, I wonder if through that collective, if it hasn't channeled its way into the vehicle so that it can occupy it and inhabit it and then grow from there.
Let me put something else out for you. So how do I see it right now is you have the new power struggle of the elite. You
Mm-hmm.
have, in the exoteric version of it, you have big pharma and big tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the old elite, which was the royals, and the royal bloodlines. Now what is happening is that the big pharma and big tech are basically controlling the politicians and the royals, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is the exoteric version, but the uh, esoteric version of that is you have like the minions, what I refer to as like the gray aliens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the draconian, right? The Dracos. So the Dracos represent the old elite,
Mm-hmm.
and now what's happening, how I see it, is that actually the minions of the Dracos, the Zetas, the Greys, are trying to take over their part for the new
Mm-hmm.
world.
Beautiful. Thank you very much,
You're
Pim.
welcome.
I appreciate it. There's so many questions I want to hit you up on, and let's do another one session. You, me, and Aziz after this conference,
Right.
and we'll address more questions on I've got so many that I want to ask, and there's a lot of questions in the chat room too. But because we're constrained with time, right? I'd love to ask them all, but like one is I'd like to ask is about the doorknob killings. The second is the gloves that Tom Hanks continues to show. There's a lot on the plate that I wanna pick your mind on, but we're run out of time. So before I let you go, my brother, tell our audience where they can find you, how they can find you. I've put your Telegram, YouTube, and your IG into the comments, guys. So if you just scroll up, you'll see the links, and follow Pim. This guy's amazing. He's got a great head on his shoulder, and some really amazing information. So give us a quick download on how they can find you, brother.
Well, exactly those three links. Like basically, that's all the platforms that I'm currently on, as well. Like my personal as like on Matrix. So that's YouTube, that is Telegram, and that is indeed Instagram. So if you just search on Matrix yourself on YouTube, Matrix discussions, and on Matrix on Telegram, and on Matrix on Instagram, you can easily find it. And through that, you can also find my personal. My personal account on Instagram is private. My personal account on Telegram is just public, so everybody can just join that. And my personal YouTube actually is more watches than anything esoteric, but maybe that will change in the future as well. So just follow me on those three platforms, and we can connect.
Awesomeness, brother. Thank you very much again, Pim. I appreciate your contribution and an upload into Humanity Unplugged. It's a great humanitarian service you've done by raising awareness on this very important subject that we all should be highlighting and talking about. So, my brother, after this is over, I will be in contact with you, and we'll make some great plans for the future. So, again, my homie, thank you. I totally appreciate you.
Likewise.
Just before you leave, Pim, I just wanted to say that was a fantastic presentation, and your knowledge of that esoteric and the symbolism is it's bar none, man. It's absolutely awesome. So
it's been some years.
I would love to get you on the show too, and really break it down like we did last night with Ole. Get you and Ole in there together and really burn it to the ground. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that would be a sick panel. I'd love to
Right?
see that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, you guys should connect and make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you both, guys, and enjoy the event. I love it so far. So perfect.
Right on, brother. Thank you very much. I love you,
Thank
homie.
you, brother.
Lots of respect to you. And let's bring on our Star Sister 23rd year anniversary today.